Rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So I bet you're wondering what that reading has to do with the hymn sing. Yes. So let me give you a little bit of context for what is happening in the book written by the prophet Haggai. So Haggai is the prophet who kind of oversaw the great homecoming. So the Hebrew people had been taken into the Babylonian exile. They were stripped from their homelands and taken into captivity. And in the midst of that conquering, the first temple was destroyed. So in the Hebrew Bible, David, the great king, was tasked with giving God a place to be, the first temple. He didn't actually complete that work. David's son Solomon completed it, and it was an architectural feat, and it was beautiful, and it was exactly as it was supposed to be. It was the peak of every beautiful thing, and it was destroyed. And the people were taken away from where they had put down roots and taken into exile until several decades later, they were allowed to come home. But they came home to rubble. They came home to memories because what had been built had been destroyed. And so when Haggai asks, who among you remembers this house, the house of God, in its former glory? It's an honest question because they were gone somewhere between 50 and 60 years. So maybe the oldest among them may have had very vague early memories of its splendor. And memory is a funny thing, right? Sometimes when there was a golden era of something that we care about very much, we like to embellish around the edges. And so I wonder how that temple became even more beautiful in people's memory because it was theirs. And it was the thing that they were holding on to as they were not home, as they were far from where they understood their God to rest. After that kind of devastation, these beautiful things become really necessary for us to take that one next step, to keep going, to keep dreaming of home. Church is kind of like that. There are golden ages, maybe in the 50s and 60s, where Protestant civic religion was at its height, when church pews were filled, when it was where you hobnobbed with the other people in your class or maybe above it, the doctors and the lawyers, and it was where white people came and we were in community. For some people, this change away from American civic religion is very painful. That's our golden era, especially within mainline Protestantism. That's when we had all the money. That's when we had a lot of social influence over the social gospel. That's when a theologian, Reinhold Niebuhr, was on the cover of Time as the most influential person. And we're not there anymore. And that hurts. And we have to decide what we're keeping from that golden age. We are stewards of tradition, stewards of memory, like we talked about last week. But we get to choose. It's a funny thing that looking back, things tend to look better, or if you had a real bad time, things look absolutely the worst. But either way, it's a very binary way of looking at it. It's either the best thing that ever happened, or if it wasn't serving you, it needs to die. It is not good. There's nothing that we can salvage out of that. But the work of spirituality, the work that God is calling us to, the work that the United Church of Christ has charged us with, is to make our faith in conversation with everything that came before and make it ours in this day and age. So we're not going to pitch the hymnals. There is beauty there. There is faith there. There is food for our souls there. And also, some of the theology of some of these hymns we may not find life-giving anymore. We'll just say, right? And so we get to pick, we get to choose, we get to steward our traditions, to be in relationship with everything that came before, take the things that worked, the things that do ground us, the things that are beautiful, and keep those, hold on to those with both hands. And also trust, as Haggai was asking the Hebrew people to trust, that God is building up something even better, even more beautiful, that we can't even imagine it yet, but it is in process. And it takes letting go of what we thought was the best thing for the beautiful, wonderful thing that is still to come. And so we stand with our feet in both places, stewarding our tradition and making our future. Amen. It's just going to stay on. Don't worry, I'm not preaching twice. But I do have a question, right? So at the beginning of the service, I asked you to think about something that you had inherited from a mentor or a teacher or a parent that you're hanging on to, that's important to you. This passage out of 2 Thessalonians is that, right? And it's interesting, right? Because sometimes our mentors or teachers or, parents, they have a vested interest in making sure that we hold exactly to what, what they taught us. But along with that, we get the chance to choose. We get the chance to pick. And so I would love it if you would name maybe something about your faith, how you understand your faith, who you are today as a person, your spirituality, something that you were given by someone who came before you, a tradition, a teaching that you are hanging on to.
What we do here on earth matters.
Thank you. Other understandings or traditions that you hold on to because they were gifted to you. Linda.
We never have the right to give up.
Yours to complete, neither is it yours to surrender.
This isn't a simple lesson, and of course it takes a long explanation because it's me. My grandmother didn't come to our wedding because I married a Lutheran, not a Catholic. She actually left our house and flew home to not come to our wedding. Okay. But there is one thing she told me that I live by. When I was very young, I was very confused about some things a priest was saying about my baby sister and about relationships and my parents' marriage. And I went to my grandmother and I said, well, the priest is telling us this, this, and this. And she said, look, and she's Irish Catholic. He no play of the game, he no make of the rules. Okay. And through the next few years, she talked to me about use your head, Deborah. Does it make sense? Do you think that works? You know, talk to other people. And I appreciate the United Church of Christ because we're supposed to use our heads.
Right? All questions welcome. I may not have answers, but I will wonder with you. Mel.
To treat everyone fairly and equally.
This is my Jewish heritage. However we understand the sacred, it is here with us in the things of the earth. The earth is a good thing. Physical life is a good thing. It has its challenges, but we're not looking for some separate realm. We're looking for holiness right here among us.
Make time for quiet contemplation.
Making time for quiet contemplation. Yes, yes.
From my mother, the importance of helping those in need.
Absolutely. Right. So I've spoken about it a little bit before, right? But I maybe have some problems with authority, but it's not all bad, right? There are beautiful things. It's very loud. I know most of these hymns because of my cradle tradition, right? I grew up Lutheran. They didn't want me as a queer lady pastor, not a fan. But I know all these hymns. They give life to my soul because of where I've been, right? And I get to choose the stories. I get to choose the traditions. You get to choose what you learn, what you take. In the 12-step rooms, we say, take what you need and leave the rest. Maybe it wasn't for you today. Maybe something else is, but that's why we're together in community. Not everything's going to land. Not everything that you were taught will stick. That's okay. But we get to choose. We get to build with the materials we've been given. Some of it needs to be completely recycled. Some of it is still good to build with. And it's the work of discernment that helps us choose.